Are you being lazy here? Are you truly interested in losing your job? When I was eventually employed by the company after a difficult job hunt, I was met with the icy stare of Jessica, the president's gorgeous daughter. If you can't do the job, come with me. I was taken to a location where the company was on the brink of collapse. I was involved in an incident there. I recognized the offender's face. I applied my unique talent to assist Jessica during her time of need. I had no idea how it might alter our relationship. Jessica was cold, so I was surprised when she abruptly changed her mind and came closer to me. Hey, can you stay with me tonight? That is incorrect. Haven't I said the same thing to you before? When Lisa, a senior employee, pointed out errors in my documentation, I lowered my head in humility. I apologize. I'll take care of it immediately. To be honest, I had no idea what was wrong. It's important in these situations to own up to your mistakes and offer an apology right away, but she saw through it as well. Chris, you think just apologizing is enough, don't you? I'm sorry. You see, you can't do the job because of this. This time, pay close attention. Write it this way. One of Lisa's distinguishing characteristics is her bluntness. She even referred to me as useless in front of me once. In fact, though, I value her candor. It's preferable to being abruptly and unexpectedly abandoned one day. I'm 25 years old, and my name is Chris. I currently work as a clerk at Anderson Travel, a small travel firm. It has been 2 months and 13 days since I began working here. My prior employment was in a completely different industry than a travel agency. But here I am, because I was so desperate at the time. Chris, why did you choose our company? Oh, well, what do you think are your strengths and weaknesses? Strengths? I apologize, but I'm not sure. That's enough. This is how my job search has always been. My poor communication skills have caused me to flunk interviews at numerous companies. Ultimately, I was only employed by Anderson Travel. I applied for every job I could find because I couldn't afford to be selective, and I eventually found a job in a travel agency. However, I was immediately threatened with unemployment once more after I joined. As they hired someone like you, maybe I should start preparing to jump ship too. Jump ship. Job hunting is a competition to determine if the company will file for bankruptcy first or if every employee will quit first. In any case, the days of this company are coming to an end. It's incredibly hard to find a job at a business like this. On the company computer, Lisa laughed and navigated to a job search website. No success. I felt she might be right and went back to my desk. The business I just almost was recruited by was already doing badly financially. In the office, it was common knowledge that bankruptcy may occur at any time. We used to broadcast numerous TV ads. There isn't much left to see, but I do recall seeing them. It appears that the company's president, Mr. Anderson, has given up and is no longer actively involved in management. I heard the staff members' voices once more in the afternoon as I chanced to be strolling down the corridor. Nobody is afraid to speak candidly about the company's internal problems because it is widely known that it is on the verge of going out of business. So who's running the company now? It happened when they were looking at each other. Who authorized an extended lunch break? A piercing, authoritative voice reverberated around the corridor. Every employee jumped in surprise. The voice's owner, approaching them with a click of heels, was, "Give your name and department. This will be taken into consideration for the next layoffs." The person speaking with such a cold expression was someone everyone knew. Her large eyes, small face, and petite frame made her look cute, like an idol popular among the male employees. But her personality was cold and arrogant. Indeed, she was infamous for being heartless. She was Jessica, the only daughter of Mr. Anderson and the next president of this company at 28 years old. You all just need to do your jobs. There's no need to think about who's running the company. Or are you suggesting that I can't handle the job in place of Mr. Anderson? No, not at all. It's fine. Say it clearly, just like you were gossiping so energetically earlier. Go on. Jessica peered down at them with an expressionless glare that was enough to make the employees scream and run away. Only Jessica and I, who had nothing to do with it, were left behind. So, are you slacking off too? Department and name. I'm, Her large eyes turned towards me, and I, already weak in unexpected situations, looked down, flustered. Seeing this, Jessica sighed. Just kidding. You're Chris from the clerical department, right? What? I don't know about my father, but I believe it's essential to know every employee's name to determine if they are useful to the company or not too. Judging from your reaction, you won't understand unless I say it clearly. You belong to the latter category. I knew of Jessica's reputation, but this was the first time we spoke face to face. She was even more blunt than I imagined, and even more so than my mentor, Lisa. She spoke without changing her expression, completely emotionless. If you can't do the job, there's no reason to keep you in the company. Huh. Not understanding her words immediately, I stared directly at Jessica. She met my gaze head-on and said firmly, You're coming with me tomorrow. The next day, she drove me in the company car to the mountains 2 counties over. There stood a small, secluded hot spring inn. This is the secret hot spring known only to insiders. It's going to be the highlight of the tour we're planning. We'll be staying here tonight. Oh, just so you know, this is strictly a site inspection as part of our work. I chose you because you happen to be in front of me. Reviewing the hot spring, enjoying a one-night stay with 2 meals, and writing a review. Surely you can manage that, so don't get the wrong idea. After giving me a stern look and emphasizing her point, Jessica walked into the inn without looking back. What are you doing? Hurry up and follow. Oh yes. Stunned, I stood there for a moment before hurriedly chasing after her. 2.5 hours later, I sat on a bench in front of the large public bath, waiting for Jessica to come out of the women's bath. She's late, isn't she? Surely let's meet here. Jessica had said before we parted ways to the men's and women's baths exactly 2.5 hours ago. I had come out of the hot spring about 20 minutes later. That means I've been waiting for Jessica here for over 2 hours. She said it would take time because she wanted to thoroughly check the quality and temperature of the spring. But 2 hours in that water. Having experienced it myself, I knew the water here was quite hot. I barely managed to stay in for 20 minutes, convincing myself, this is work. How could she stay in there for so long? She's amazing, Jessica. No, wait, could it be? Could she have gotten sick inside and be unable to get out? A bad thought crossed my mind. This is bad. Jessica, are you there? Are you okay? I got as close as I could to the entrance of the women's bath and called inside, but there was no response. My anxiety grew. Still, I knew that barging into the women's bath would cause a scene. That's it. I'll go get someone. Just wait a minute, Jessica. There should be some female staff at the front desk. Thinking this, I started running down the hallway. Almost at the same moment, I heard someone opening the door to the bath behind me. Oh, thank goodness. Wait. What? I turned around, thinking it must be Jessica. But what I saw was a man coming out through the curtain of the women's bath. You've got to be kidding me, he muttered as he quickly walked past me. As the man disappeared down the hallway, the door to the women's bath opened again, and finally, Jessica emerged. Chris, have you been waiting here all this time? Oh, yes. We agreed to meet here. I see. Well, you can go back to your room now. But what for? For some reason, Jessica was glaring at me, keeping a bit of distance and looking quite annoyed. However, I couldn't just say, okay, sure, and leave. Are you okay, Jessica? I'm fine. Nothing's wrong anywhere. Just go already. But it was obvious to anyone that Jessica was not fine at all. Her skin, from her face to her arms and ankles, was all bright red. Her steps were unsteady, and her eyes couldn't focus. "You don't look well. You're probably overheated from staying in the hot spring for so long." It's not like I wanted to stay in there. I had no choice because my underwear. Jessica paused. "Oh, nothing. Anyway, we're done here. Free time until dinner." Without thinking, I reached out as Jessica swayed heavily, collapsing into my arms. Pot. The small body I held was burning hot, as if on fire, and it was incredibly soft. "No, don't touch me," she muttered weakly. "This isn't the time for that. We need to cool you down immediately. Can you walk?" "I can't because, right now I'm—" Jessica, usually so calm and composed, was mumbling weakly as I half-dragged her to my room. Her usual fitted shirt and skirt seemed to cling to her body more than usual, emphasizing her curves. But I didn't have the luxury to pay attention to that. I was driven by the thought that I had to help her. I cranked up the air conditioning and made her drink lots of water. As she rested, the redness gradually faded from her skin, returning to its usual clear whiteness. Her previously dazed eyes regained their focus. When I leaned in to check on her, Jessica's eyes flew wide open. "Ah, no, stay away." Startled by her sudden scream, I fell back on my rear. Jessica sprang up from the bed where she had been lying and quickly backed up against the wall. She hugged herself with her arms as if protecting herself from an enemy. "Don't come any closer. Don't look at me. Turn around right now." "Oh, why?" "Just do it." I couldn't argue with her fierce tone and turned around as ordered. Then Jessica started mumbling something. It was gone. What? My my underwear was gone. When I got out of the bath, it had disappeared from the changing room. What? Reflexively, I turned back despite her order. Our eyes met, and Jessica's face turned bright red again, as if she were overheating. "Don't look at me. Just look at the ceiling." "Yes, ma'am." "That's better." When I looked up at the ceiling, she seemed to relax a bit. She let out a long sigh and finally explained why she had been in the bath for so long. The water was hotter than I expected, so I decided to get out fairly early. But then I realized my underwear was gone from the basket in the changing room. No matter how many times I checked, it was nowhere to be found, so I couldn't leave. But it was too cold to stay in the changing room, so I kept going back and forth between the bath and the changing room until I started feeling ill. Basically, that's why I'm not wearing any underwear right now. She confessed the shocking truth with a strained voice. "You can look now. Your neck must be tired," she said. Even so, after hearing her confession, I couldn't bring myself to look at her. Still staring at the ceiling, I asked about something that had been on my mind. "So when you say your underwear was gone, you mean it was stolen?" "I don't know. But there weren't any other guests besides me, so it's unlikely someone took it by mistake. I hate to think about it, but there's a possibility that there's an underwear thief in this inn," Jessica muttered bitterly. Hearing this, a memory suddenly came back into my mind. "Ah. What is it?" "Well, it was strange to see a man coming out of the women's bath." "What do you mean, Chris?" Jessica cornered me with questions, so I revealed it. I told her about the man I saw coming out of the women's bath just before she emerged. Jessica's eyes widened, and she pressed closer to me. "What did that man look like?" "He must be the underwear thief." "Think hard and remember. What did he look like? Even the smallest detail, please try to remember." As she shook my shoulders, I tried to recall the man's face. I grabbed the pen and notepad on the table and quickly sketched what I remembered. This is what he looked like. The moment I held up the notepad, Jessica gasped. "What?" She took the notepad with trembling hands and exclaimed in shock. "Chris, I didn't know you could draw so well." Well, it's about the only thing I'm good at. No, it's not just a talent. This is incredible. The wrinkles around his eyes, his teeth. It's like a photo. I had always been good at drawing. Many people had said my drawings were photo-like. But I had my reasons for not taking those words as compliments. And this outfit, isn't that the inn staff uniform? Oh, now that you mention it. Realizing this, I grabbed the notepad and headed to the front desk to explain the situation. As a result, the culprit who stole Jessica's underwear was identified. Indeed, it was a male employee of the inn. He had snuck into the women's bath to commit the theft, but couldn't leave because I had been waiting outside the bathhouse. He confessed to the manager that he had been the one stealing underwear repeatedly. The police were called immediately, and the inn became a bit chaotic. We are truly deeply sorry. After the male employee was taken away by the police, the inn president, accompanied by the head of the guest services department, profusely apologized to Jessica. They also offered to waive the entire cost of our stay as a sign of apology. And of course, we will provide the best service possible for the rest of your stay. Are you asking us to overlook this? No, that's not our intention. Then no, thank you. Let's go, Chris. Jessica curtly rejected their offer, looking like she had regained her usual composure. She walked straight toward the entrance without looking back. I hurriedly followed her, and we left the inn together. Maybe I did something wasteful. We had a chance to stay for free, Jessica murmured while driving down the mountain road. A slight smile appeared on her face for a moment. It was the first time I had seen her smile. It's a pity for you too, Chris. The food there is reputed to be delicious. No, I'm glad about your legs. After we left the inn, it seemed like your shaking stopped. When I said that, Jessica's mouth fell open in surprise, as if she had just realized her legs had been trembling. You really observe things, don't you? With that drawing and all, I have to admit, I'm impressed. Thanks, but it's the only thing I'm good at. Don't say that. With your drawing skills, you could succeed in that field. Why did you decide to work in the travel industry? Well, it's a long story. I see. Everyone has their reasons. I used to be lauded as the president's daughter and the future president, but now I'm living in near poverty. Speaking more casually than usual and with a softer expression, Jessica talked a lot. It was a side of her that probably no one at the company knew, and I realized she was deliberately putting on a cheerful facade. When we arrived at the hotel in town, Jessica said, "It's late, so let's stay here tonight. Is that okay?" Understood. I'll check if they have 2 single rooms available. Just as I was about to get out of the car, Jessica suddenly called out to me, "Wait." Huh. Not a single. A twin room. A twin room. After everything that happened, I'm still scared. Look, I'm shaking again. So please, Chris, just for tonight, stay with me. Her large eyes filled with tears as she looked straight at me. My heart skipped a beat, and I couldn't refuse her request. Can you draw me? Jessica asked as she relaxed a bit on the bed. Draw you? Is that a problem? Not a problem. It's just, I'm not good at drawing people. You're so good at it. Please, I want to know how I look through your eyes, Chris. Well, it wasn't that I wasn't good at it. It was more that I didn't want to, especially if the model was Jessica. My style couldn't capture her charm. But all right, I picked up the notepad from the side table and began to draw. After about 3 minutes, I stopped and handed the notepad to Jessica with a stiff expression. Here you are. Wow. Is this me? Her eyes sparkled as she stared at the drawing intently. I had drawn her smile from the car. It was the most memorable expression I had seen that day, but I wasn't satisfied with the piece at all. That's not my drawing. Huh. What are you talking about, Chris? I just saw you draw it. Jessica tilted her head in confusion, but her next words hit me hard. But it's true. This drawing feels different from the one earlier. The one earlier was almost like a photo, but this one feels softer and kinder. Ah, she had hit the mark. I had intentionally changed my style, and Jessica had noticed. I mimicked someone else's style for this. It's not my drawing, is it? Maybe this person. Jessica sat up and took her phone out of her bag. She turned it on and showed me the screen. Displayed on it was an artist's painting. This was for us a long time ago. It's my father, my mother, and me as a little girl. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, I was captivated by the perfection of the painting, the three of them facing each other, laughing joyfully. A moment of family togetherness, captured in delicate, intricate watercolors so soft and gentle that it made anyone who saw it smile. This painting always kept my family together. No matter how bad our fights were, just looking at this painting would bring back gentle feelings. We faced many crises, but this painting kept us from falling apart. Now, I keep it as my phone's wallpaper, and it comforts me whenever I'm going through tough times. Chris, the way you drew me looks a lot like the way I'm smiling in this painting. Did you learn to draw from this artist by any chance? No, that person never taught me to draw. In fact, I hardly remember talking to him because he never showed any interest in his own son. Jessica fell silent, shocked. Your father is? Yes, I'm the son of that artist. Robert. Robert? The watercolor maestro. He's known by everyone. He's won numerous prestigious awards internationally, and his paintings often fetch millions. Such a great man. But as a father, he was far from great. His delicate, gentle artistic style was the exact opposite of his stern, often harsh demeanor. He was taciturn and difficult, always frowning and locked away in his studio. He never took care of me, never took me out to play, and I don't even remember him smiling at me as a child. I often felt sad thinking my father loved his paintings more than he loved me, and yet, in the end, I followed in my father's footsteps. Did you love drawing? I don't know, but I couldn't imagine any other path. Maybe because I wanted my father to take care of me more than his paintings, I ended up watching him all the time. Naturally, I decided I wanted to draw for a living. And after graduating from art school, I got a job as an illustrator. But it led to the biggest disappointment of my life. They're just riding on their father's coattails. Such a letdown. Those words still echo in my mind. In the end, this setback caused me to leave the company, and at the same time, I vowed to myself I will never draw for work again. My father truly is great. I realized at my previous job that I'd never be able to draw like him, no matter how hard I tried. The best I could do was mimic his style. We're the same then. I wanted to be a business person like my father. At some point, Jessica had lain down on the bed, looking at me. In her hands, she held the portrait I had drawn, cradling it carefully. I wanted to expand the company, be respected by many employees. I always wondered how I could become like my father. One day, he told me that a great business person can control their emotions. No matter how happy or sad you are, you shouldn't show it in front of your subordinates. Jessica had followed this advice from her revered father to the letter, to the point where she couldn't genuinely smile anymore. Do you know my nickname? It's the Ice Queen. They say I'm always expressionless, never showing what I'm thinking, and it scares people. Instead of being respected, I'm kept at a distance. And my manager isn't going well. I've been so frustrated, I ended up taking it out on everyone around me. I'll never be like my father. She crumpled her face into a bitter smile. Then, she held up my drawing. I love your drawing, Chris. It encourages me. It makes me feel like I can still smile, like this. As she spoke, Jessica changed her expression. She lifted the corners of her mouth and narrowed her eyes, mimicking the smile in the drawing. Her smile was awkward but kind. Do you really see me like this, Chris? My heart started pounding, and my face grew hot. Yes, I think you're beautiful. You should smile more often. Really? She looked at me with wide eyes, surprised by my answer. That's not really an answer, Jessica said with a soft laugh. Her first genuine laugh. But if you say so, Chris, I'll try. I'll start by smiling more often. This time, she smiled even more naturally. Then, she yawned widely and, still smiling, closed her eyes. I'll go to sleep now. Good night, Chris. Yes, good night. I dimmed the lights and lay down on my bed. But that night, I couldn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jessica's gentle smile. After that night, Jessica began to change. She started smiling more at the office and proactively communicating with the employees. At first, the employees were confused, but they gradually accepted her new expressive self. A sense of unity grew within the company, with everyone determined to overcome the business crisis together. And there were other changes as well. Chris, did you see the response? This time is amazing. You're our company's savior. Ahaha, thanks. I responded with a wry smile to the praises from those around me. Recently, I had transferred from the administrative department to the advertising department. This was at Jessica's strong recommendation. She had bowed deeply, asking me to save the company from bankruptcy. Chris, your drawings always catch attention. I know what happened at your previous job, but I still want to ask you. Please, this is my plea. With such earnestness, I couldn't refuse. Breaking my vow to never draw for work again, I took on the task of designing the brochure. As a result, Jessica's prediction was spot on. The brochures I designed generated a huge response, especially on social media. This significantly boosted the company's visibility, leading to many inquiries and numerous tour bookings. For the first time since the company began to falter, there were signs of an improvement in the business. Thank you so much, Chris. It's all thanks to you. Jessica, now able to smile naturally, came to the office to express her gratitude. Her bright smile filled me with a warm feeling. A feeling I recognized as happiness. Jessica was happy because of my drawing. Acknowledging this happiness, I also felt a complex mix of emotions. It's not because of me, ha. Jessica must have realized it too. I was deliberately drawing in my father's style, and another reason for the attention was that the brochure was designed by the son of the famous artist, Robert. You're just copying scenes. That's not what I call art. My father had once criticized my drawing. In essence, he told me I had no talent. And here I was, mimicking my father's style again, thinking I really am just a second-rate imitation. Without my father's legacy, I wouldn't have been able to make Jessica smile. The more praise I received, the more I lost confidence as an artist. Then one day, an unexpected visitor came to see Jessica. Listen, if our company's designer handles it, it's guaranteed to go viral. Why not give it a try? Hearing the voice from outside the reception room, a chill ran down my spine. No way. Feeling a bad premonition, I couldn't help but press my ear against the door. Then I heard Jessica's firm voice resonate. I've said it many times, but no, thank you. I don't know anyone more talented than him. If he is as excellent as you say, why not use him at your own company? She was smiling, but I could tell she was definitely angry. Even through the door, I could imagine Jessica's demeanor vividly. As I hesitated with my hand on the doorknob, the door opened from inside. Sorry to bother you when you're busy, Chris. This gentleman says he knows you. Could you confirm? I stepped into the reception room and lifted my gaze. That's when I realized my bad feeling was right. Of course, it was Kevin. Hey, Chris. It seems like you're doing pretty well, but it's all thanks to your father. You're still riding on his coattails. The man grinned at me with an obnoxious smile. It was Kevin, a former colleague from the design company where I worked. He was in the sales department, and the one who had cemented my downfall back then. I was struggling with my work, even though I was hired as an illustrator. Every time I was given a task, my boss, Eric, would reject it. The reason was always my father. Your realistic drawings are excellent, but our clients want warmer illustrations like your father's, for example. Yes, everyone at the office knew that my father was a world-renowned artist. Even if they didn't say it outright, they all expected me to draw like him. The gentle and warm illustrations like my father's, which I struggled with. Those expectations gradually pushed me to the edge, and Kevin had noticed my struggle. "Hey, Daddy's boy, is it true you got the job because of your father's connections?" From a certain point, Kevin began to persistently pick on me. Daddy's coattails. A huge disappointment. The only failure of the great Robert. Every time we crossed paths, he would throw those words at me. Eventually, I lost confidence in the one thing I thought I was good at: drawing. My spirit completely broke, and I left the company as if running away. I saw the brochure. "Jessica, it's just a ripoff of Robert's work. He's only getting away with it because he's his son. But eventually, complaints will come in. You should change the person in charge before that happens. Replace him with someone truly talented, not just writing on their father's fame." Kevin was always good at hitting where it hurt. My father, who was indifferent to his child, but strict about art, must be furious right now, knowing that I've been imitating his style without permission. I started feeling that way. I worried that I was causing trouble for Jessica, who was working hard to protect the company. He might be right, Chris, as I lowered my gaze. Kevin, anticipating this moment, spread his documents on the table. "Here are some designers I highly recommend. They do honest work." Kevin eagerly introduced his company's designers, but Jessica interrupted him. "No, thank you. I have no intention of changing the person in charge." "What, you think his drawings are plagiarized? What exactly are you looking at to make that judgment? You must be blind." Kevin's face turned red with anger as he jumped up from the sofa. However, Jessica stood up. Before I could react, she grabbed the brochure from beside her and thrust it in front of Kevin's face. "This is a combination of Chris's realistic illustrations and the techniques he learned from Robert. In other words, it's a piece only Chris can create. We welcome any complaints, even from Robert himself, because I will give the same explanation. So, there's no need for your unnecessary concerns." Jessica's bold declaration blew away the anxiety that had been clouding my heart. I wasn't just a second-rate version of my father. I was creating something only I could. And more than anything, I wanted Jessica to recognize that. "You'll regret this. You'll wish you had cut ties with him later." With that parting shot, Kevin stormed out of the reception room, his shoulders bristling with anger. After the door slammed shut, Jessica looked up at me and smiled brightly. "Don't worry. No matter what happens, I'll protect you, Chris." "Thank you." It was a somewhat complicated declaration for a man to hear. A few days later, Kevin made his move. "This was delivered to me anonymously this morning," Jessica said as she handed me the document. As soon as I read it, I felt a shock that darkened my vision. Because it was the document accusing me of having relationships with multiple women simultaneously. It also claimed that Chris was embezzling company funds. These accusations detailed my supposed wrongdoings. That's not true. I know. I know your character better than anyone. I also know that these claims are baseless lies, and I have a pretty good idea who sent this. Kevin. I had the same suspicion as Jessica. Kevin's aim was not to damage my social standing, but to undermine Jessica's trust in me. I considered keeping this to myself and not telling you if I couldn't. Why not? Because it made me so angry. It infuriated me to think that you, who saved this company, were being disrespected by such a despicable person. Jessica clenched her fists, her voice and expression tinged with anger. At the same time, I saw tears welling up in her eyes, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. Let's fight back, Jessica. Chris, actually, I was thinking the same. But how? I have an idea. An eye for an eye. Jessica tilted her head in confusion at my words. The next day, I placed something I had prepared overnight in front of Jessica. Is this a photo? If it looks like a photo, then our plan is almost successful. We should send this photo to Kevin's company. Wait, this is a drawing. Jessica's surprise was understandable. What I had prepared was a drawing that I had painstakingly made to look as close to a photograph as possible, using all my skills. I created a piece with a level of detail that would fool anyone at a glance. For the first time, I felt grateful for my talent in realistic illustration. If we run it through a copier, they won't realize it's a drawing. Amazing. But the people in this, who seem so close, could it be? Yes, Kevin and some female colleagues from our previous company. Unlike Kevin's baseless accusations, this was based on fact. I simply drew what I saw and remembered. Hearing this, Jessica gasped. Oh, I've heard of this before, Chris. Could it be that you had a photographic memory? Yes, I nodded at Jessica's words. A photographic memory. It's the ability to instantly and vividly remember and retain everything seen. Since I was a child, I had an exceptional memory that astonished adults. I only learned it was called a photographic memory when I was about to enter the workforce. Once I see something, I never forget it. Even scenes I wasn't particularly interested in, I can recall and draw from memory. The one who had relationships with multiple women at the same time, as depicted here, is Kevin. Jessica didn't doubt my confidence statement for a second. Following my suggestion, we ran the drawing through a copier, compiled it into a document, and sent it anonymously to the design company where I had previously worked. The results were beyond our expectations. Kevin, who was engaged to the executive's daughter, was questioned by his superiors and ended up confessing to cheating with several female employees. He even confessed to embezzlement, though no one had asked about it. Out of fear that someone knew everything, he muttered in terror, clutching his head, "It seems there's someone who knows everything." Your photographic memory helped you when you saved me at the end, didn't it? After our successful retaliation against Kevin, Jessica spoke with a tone of understanding. She said it was an incredible ability, one too valuable to keep hidden. However, What's wrong, Chris? Seeing my uneasy expression, Jessica's face also clouded over. I revealed another secret I'd been keeping. I had a mild developmental disorder. It's often said that people with a photographic memory might have developmental disorders like autism spectrum disorder. I was one of them. Since childhood, I had difficulty communicating with others and struggled to keep up with school lessons. Even after getting a job, I had trouble understanding work instructions. Coupled with the extreme memory from my photographic memory, I was often seen as an oddball and spent most of my time alone. So, I knew that having a disorder would eventually be found out, even if I tried to hide it. At least I wanted to keep my photographic memory a secret. That's what I thought when I joined this company. And yet, you helped me. Suddenly, my hands felt warm, and I looked up. In front of me, Jessica was holding my hands gently and smiling. Thank you so much. Your talent saved me, Chris. Really? Yes, talent. A truly remarkable talent. It's because you, Chris, can use it correctly without flaunting it that you were gifted this ability by God. A wonderful talent. I had never thought of it that way. I had always believed that having a photographic memory meant living a life with more difficulties than others. I had even come to resent it, seeing it as a burden. But Jessica praised it as a talent. Is it really okay to think of it as a talent, to be proud of it? Of course, I fully support you. Jessica smiled brightly at me, and her figure blurred as tears filled my eyes. For a while, I couldn't stop crying as she held my hands. After that, Kevin, who had confessed to various misdeeds, had his engagement called off and was fired from the company. Incidentally, I also learned the reason why he had driven me out of the company. It was jealousy. He was supposed to be in the spotlight as an elite graduate from a prestigious university, but he was annoyed that I, the son of a famous artist, received more attention than he did. Now, rumors about him have spread throughout the industry, making it extremely difficult for Kevin to find a new job. I continue to be heavily involved in designing the brochures, further increasing the company's visibility. With the hard work of Jessica and my colleagues, the company is now stable and profitable. Jessica, who had tirelessly protected the company, officially took over as president. Under the leadership of the new, capable president, the company is expected to continue growing. And today, I'm facing a momentous occasion. It's quite a turnout. A voice called from behind me, making me turn around. There stood my father, someone I half expected wouldn't come. "Dad, you came." "I finished my work for now," he replied gruffly, folding the invitation I had sent him. Today was the day of my first solo exhibition. Through persistent work, I had gained recognition as an illustrator named Chris, not just as Robert's son. Finally, I had been invited by an art gallery to hold my own exhibition. "It's late, but I'm sorry for imitating your style without permission." Thanks to my father's presence, I was able to confess what had been weighing on my mind. His response was just one word: "Good work." That one word was enough. In fact, I had already learned from my mother about his true feelings. My father had always struggled with social interactions, and after learning about my developmental disorder, he didn't know how to relate to me and became more withdrawn. He had tried to connect with me through our shared love of drawing, but ended up saying things that sounded like he was dismissing my work, which he regretted later. He had even secretly collected all the brochures I had designed in his studio. "This is Chris's own work," I see my father murmured to himself as he looked at my drawings. For some reason, his profile looked happy. I felt the long-standing tension between us dissolve at that moment. I heard a voice calling my name, "Chris." A woman hurried towards me from a distance. It was Jessica, who had come despite her busy schedule as president. "Sorry for being late." "Congratulations." "Thank you. Is everything okay at work?" "I'll worry about that when I get back." Jessica's bright smile made me smile as well. When I turned to introduce her to my father, I was taken aback. "Please take good care of my son," my father said, bowing deeply to Jessica. "Dad." "As a colleague, of course." "Yes, I will," Jessica stammered, her face turning red. Jessica, for some reason, looked adorably cute with her blushing face. I, who never forget a single detail once seen, thought for the first time, I want to remember this moment forever. Years later, Jessica sometimes looks back with a nostalgic smile. She says that the misunderstanding back then actually helped her muster the courage to confess. "Thanks to your father, I was able to confess to you, Chris, so let's continue to take care of each other forever." A gentle smile graced Jessica's face, and the ring I had just given her glistened on her finger. Smiling back, I replied, "Likewise," and held the love of my life in my arms.